Okay, you guys, welcome to Coding with Josh. We're going to go over JavaScript. If you watched my last videos about CSS and HTML, hopefully that prepped you. And we're going to get into how we kind of control these elements. And you can control them. When I say control them, it means we can do commands. We can do, like a lot of people mention the word logic when they're talking about like scripting. So we're going to do scripting. If you've never heard of the word scripting before, um, it basically means we can do like logical procedures to our elements. Um, and there's a bajillion ways to do these things and a bajillion things we can do. So I'm only going to cover like a sliver of the top, but hopefully it gives you enough of, enough to want to learn more and keep diving into this. JavaScript by far is my favorite, so I hope you will enjoy it as well, and I hope I can do it justice as I'm teaching you here. So if you want to read through this and haven't already, maybe pause the video, but I'm going to talk about this very briefly. So there's ways to set up variables. So a variable is something that we store data into. Just like if you think about yourself, your name really it pertains to you, right? Like who you are. That's your name, and that's how people call you. So one, I have to give something like a name. So if you look on this line here, I can say like message. Message is its name, and then the value inside of it is hello. And any time that I call the word message, it will give me this message of hello. Um, and so it's a great way to hold lots of data in a short single word, um, and also stop redundancy, right? Like I can call message over and over again rather than having to type out, a big long set of, letters and numbers over and over and over again. Okay. I can also do mathematical operations, which you would not think would be important. It's very important. We use simple math all the time in scripting. So, and honestly, most of it is just adding one. Um, and so, like loops, when we get into loops, so here we're getting down into loops. Loops are just going through, and the way that we create a loop is we add one to it every time it goes through, right? And then when it's finally hit our goal, so we have like this if statement. So these conditions are our goal. So let's say I'm looping to 100. If I have a number and once it reaches 100, I want that loop to stop. It's very important that your loops stop, or else you're going to have a never ending code. Um, and that's never fun because it usually will break the page that you're on and you have to refresh it or whatever. Um, so we want our loops to have an ending condition. Our if statements, so an if statement is different than a loop because an if statement should be like if this, then this. So again, this is very high level, basic what these things are. We can do mathematical operations. We can do if statements, loops, loops with conditions. We can set variables. So all of that is kind of our foundation into how JavaScript works. All right, so down below it talks about script, like the script tag. So in HTML, remember there's tags. Well, script is a tag that we can call out. So you can do scripting just like CSS. You can do it in an external file. You can do it in a internal file, or you can. I think there's another way. You can import. Yeah, you can import your scripts and stuff. But today we're not gonna do it like this here, because this would just go inside of our document. So if I had HTML, like paragraph, and then closing tag, this would come right below. But I'm not going to do that today because this will not take a script tag in. It's just not set up to do that. But it can take simple JavaScript. So let's start out with the very basics. Let's start out with variable. So a variable, there's three ways to write a variable. Sorry. We can write variable with var. So our statement to open things, there's a lot of times there's like certain words we have to call out to give different things meaning and function. So var is one of them, and that stands for variable. So I could say name equals Josh. And then you close each line with a semicolon. There are some lines that don't get semicolons if you're not actually closing. It's called a statement, but I'm going to use the word line. So we're closing our statement with this semicolon, and that tells the program that it's done. Most editors, you can leave this out and it will already know how to, it will understand how to read that and it'll do it for you. This is a little more tricky because I built it, and so if you're having a tough time, figure out where you're missing a semicolon, and that might be your problem. Okay, so we just called out a name. So let's just say, well, I'm going to use this line. So again, like I didn't make this up. This exists in JavaScript. So I can call out our document, which is calling out this. I can say, okay, I need you to get an element by ID. Well, I know I named these name and age. And if you need a hint, you can, go grab the hint for what those IDs are. I'm going to say name. Okay. Now I can get at its attributes. So I can say dot inner text equals name. So now what did that do? That took our variable up here, and that took this element, and it gave it set its text as the name that we put here. So if I change this, Jim, Jane, whatever you want. Now I can also update my variables throughout my code. So let's say later I want to change my name, and name is now Mikkel. Okay, notice that didn't do anything. I have to put, it's kind of silly, but I have to put the semicolon when I finish a statement until maybe I make it better. But for now, you have to put a semicolon at the end of each statement. So notice it starts out as Jane, and then it changes to Mikkel because that's the next line to run, and that's when it puts it here. So even if I put, what happens if I put this here? Well, it's going to run Jane, and it's going to run this, and it's going to run name as Mikkel, and then it's going to run this. Well, guess what? It's happening so fast that you don't even notice the difference between Jane to Mikkel. It's already done. It does do it all, but it's already done before you and I even notice it. So that's probably important to keep note if you're changing variables and things like that. Let's talk about the other ways to update a variable. I can do let. So let is similar as well, and I can also change it throughout my code. So let's do it one more time so you can see that it is actually changing. Name equals Mike. Again, I have to put that semicolon, and then it'll read that line, and we can see that that's happening. Let's use this one. So the third way, so we went over var and let, and those are just two different ways to set up variables. I'm not going to go into really the specifics on that. There's some good articles if you want to read it, or probably a ton of YouTube videos that will explain it briefly. But the other way is const. Now, const we are going to have an issue with. So even if I say name equals, what's another name? Let's just do Jim again. Okay, and I put my little semicolon there. Well, I have to be doing something wrong because it's not updating. And that is true because const stands for constant. So it can't change. And if I were to actually go and inspect this, there's like this sweet little tool and this console. A lot of times when you're dealing with like a real editor, it will show its console, but because we are in this document, which is aside from this page, I can't actually view the errors that are happening here. But the moment I take that away, I know that, oh, there's our issue. So, and maybe later I'll, make something that will show your errors and relate them back. But for now, you kind of just have to guess at what you're doing wrong, or go into a different code editor and then figure out what you are doing wrong. But okay, so there's our variables. Variables can be, and notice I'm putting like these quotes around this, but this one I'm not, because this is a variable, so it's stored. It's storing information like we talked about. This one is the information. So what if I use like a number? Do I have to still use? So if we do age, do I still have to use the quotation marks? And the answer is no, you don't have to. If it's a number or a decimal, so 25.25, or our age is just 25, then I can come down here. I'm going to just change this to say age. And so notice I'm calling it by whatever the name of the ID is. So I know that our age was just named age. And I know that I need to give the inner text our variable here. So if I called this like my age, okay, something's happening here, and that's we're getting this because this is not really a element. Well, what if I don't have to use a variable either, by the way. I can just call it age as the word age, or I can say 25 or 27. I can do it that way, but a lot of times we like to use variables because they're just easier to maintain. So there you go. My age, it's getting it from there, and it's plugging in 25. So this is good. This is going to be a little bit longer of a series. So there's how to do variables. I am going to cover how to do our arithmetic and statements and loops, all in this series, so that you can really get a good grasp at how to use JavaScript while we go through this. So thanks for watching, and watch the next one to get a little bit deeper as we go into how to do arithmetic and our other statements. So thanks for watching.